Have you ever felt something moving deep inside? Something your mind can't explain, like life itself is about to turn, even though no one has said a word to you. Not every month stirs the soul, but this October, for those who carry the fire of Aries, it will be a journey with no turning back. Not because you're changing everything, but because everything inside you is beginning to awaken. If you stay silent long enough, you'll hear it, a call echoing from far away, from deep within, and it feels so real. That's where the journey begins, when the universe touches Aries, not with noise, but with a quiet spark that makes your heart unable to stay still. October arrives quietly, without noise, without warning, like a strange breeze brushing the back of your neck as you walk through the early morning fog. You don't see it, but you know. Something in the air has changed. For Aries, the born pioneer, these invisible shifts aren't just feelings. They are signals, messages from somewhere your mind can't explain, but your heart recognizes instantly, as if something or someone gently knocked on your soul's door at midnight and whispered, "How much longer will you keep living the same way?" Awakenings aren't always gentle. Sometimes they come from deep exhaustion, from walking too long down a path that leads nowhere, from mornings where you wake up not knowing what you're even living for. And then the universe speaks, not through words, but through a strange inner shift that you can't ignore. Dear Aries, October is the moment you start listening to that call, not with your ears, but with your spirit. This isn't a journey to go out and find something. It's a return to the version of yourself you left behind, the one who used to dream, to burn, to dare. There's a part of you fiery, old, that's been asleep too long, in the cage that life's expectations built around you. But now, that shell is starting to crack, not because you're breaking, but because the light inside you has grown too big to stay hidden any longer. October doesn't ask you to change everything, but it will place you in front of doors you can no longer pretend not to see, moments that force decisions, conversations that make you reflect, old emotions that suddenly feel unfamiliar. And in each of those moments, the universe is quietly asking you a simple question. Are you ready to come back home to yourself? Awakening doesn't come from books or sermons. It comes in a glance that catches you off guard, a conversation that leaves you quiet for hours, a failure that seems meaningless until it breaks something open deep inside. That's the moment your soul shivers, because it's finally touched the frequency of truth. You don't need to know where this path leads. You just need to know you're no longer who you were, and that is enough to begin again, with reverence and with honesty. Sometimes change doesn't come to hurt you. It comes to set you free from a version of yourself that's already expired. And if you've ever felt like life was pushing you into change, not gently, but in a way that left you raw and shaken, then maybe, just maybe, you're already on the right path. If that moment ever found you, share it in the comments below. Your story might be the spark for another soul still wandering in the dark. And then, in the soft stillness of these early days of October, as you begin to surrender to this mysterious call, something strange begins to rise from deep within, a quiet fire, a forgotten dream, a long-lost voice that has waited patiently for this exact moment to return. Sometimes in those early mornings, before sunlight even touches the earth, something stirs quietly inside us, not a voice from the outside, but a flicker, a flash of light deep in the soul, one that doesn't come with a reason, just a very real feeling that you need to do something different. For Aries, October begins just like that. No announcement, no plan, but suddenly, a bold thought ignites in your mind. It might be an old desire you thought had faded, or a dream you once folded away in a drawer, telling yourself, "Not yet." But this October won't let you say that anymore. It arrives with a powerful wave of inspiration, like wind rushing through a window you forgot you opened. Ideas show up while you're washing dishes. Big questions rise as you drive home in silence. Dreams wake you in the middle of the night, heart racing, unsure why, but knowing something is ready to be born. This is the moment, Aries, to listen. Don't ask why, don't try to explain it, let your soul lead. Your logic will catch up later, because sometimes the truest actions don't come from strategy. They come from a quiet tap on the shoulder, from intuition. Something alive inside you wants to grow. It can no longer survive the repetition. It's lost interest in playing it safe. Not this month. October isn't asking you to be perfect. It's asking you to be honest. With your feelings, your truth, and the silent pull rising from your chest, you might want to change jobs, start a small project you've always dreamed of. Say something that's been sitting in your heart far too long. Whatever it is, if it makes your heartbeat skip, follow it. That's not random. That's your soul whispering. You've always been the starter, Aries, the fire starter, but that doesn't mean you don't get scared. All change comes with fear. But if you wait until you're fully ready, fully confident, fully certain, you may end up waiting forever. And you know what? This world needs people brave enough to act, even while their hands are shaking. People who don't wait for the spotlight but dance anyway, even in the dark. You're one of those people. And when you start acting from that raw, true spark, the universe will answer through open doors, unexpected meetings, conversations that shift your perspective. Don't doubt it, because actions born from truth, even when misunderstood, always send ripples into the world. And once you create ripples, you change the ocean. So what are you holding inside? A new path in your career, a habit you've been wanting to break, a life you've always dreamed of, but told yourself you're not ready for. Write it down, say it out loud, not for permission, but for self-recognition, to admit, finally, I am ready. We don't need to know every step ahead. We only need to know it's time to begin. The most beautiful journeys always start with one small, honest step. And once that flame is lit, once you take action from your own light, the world around you will begin to shift. Careers, finances, opportunities. They'll start to stir in quiet ways, like soft waves tapping against the shore at night. And from there, what once felt impossible will start to take shape, in a form you never imagined, but somehow always knew was meant for you. There's one thing life never rushes, returning to you what you've quietly planted. And this October, dear Aries, you might begin to catch the scent of your very first harvest. It might not come with fireworks, no applause, no spotlight shining down on you, but something deep in your chest knows something's shifting. The efforts you once thought were invisible are finally beginning to take shape. Maybe it's a message from someone who once turned you down, now wanting to work with you. Maybe it's a job offer you didn't expect. A small stream of income that comes directly from your talent. A look of respect from someone who never believed you had it in you. Success doesn't always roar. Sometimes it arrives as peace, as a quiet knowing that you've walked a path you once thought you couldn't survive. And I know you've asked yourself more than once, am I wasting my time? Does anyone even see what I've been trying to do? Still, you kept showing up. You kept doing the work. You kept waking up every morning, stepping into the world with everything you had, even when no one was watching. And the universe, though it speaks no words, has been listening the whole time, not with ears, but through energy. It doesn't count the hours you put in, but it measures the depth of your faith. It doesn't ask how many times you fell, only that you never truly gave up. True abundance isn't just what sits in your bank account. It's how you feel when your head hits the pillow at night. It's the quiet glow you give off, when your work comes from your heart. And this October, no matter how much or how little shows up on the surface, the most sacred thing you receive is the feeling that you're getting closer to the best version of who you've always been. But sweet Aries, this is also a season to stay awake, because with your first harvest comes the urge to speed up, to jump too fast. Remember, just because something comes early doesn't mean it's right. Don't rush to sign that contract just because it showed up. Don't say yes just because you've waited too long. Real blessings don't just arrive to satisfy you. They come to teach you how to choose. Let the joy in, but don't let it steal your stillness. Watch. Breathe, place your hand over your heart and ask, will this nourish me not just now but in the long run? If the answer is yes, you'll know, no need for confirmation, no need to explain. You've done enough, enough to receive, enough to discern, enough to walk away from anything that no longer aligns with your true values. And if there's someone out there right now, waiting for a sign to keep going, Aries, let that sign be you. Let your path, your light, be the reminder they've been praying for, so don't hold back, even if it's a small story, a quiet win, a moment you finally felt, I deserve this. Because sometimes, what you think is just a little spark is the very light that saves someone lost in the dark. And when your path starts to feel more effortless, when your trust settles like still water, you'll start to notice something deeper being woven beneath the surface. Not in a meeting, not in an inbox, but in each silent moment where your heart finally learns how to hear another heart. Love for Aries has never been gentle. You love with fire, with soul, with raw instinct. You love like the world could disappear tomorrow. But sometimes, because you love so fiercely, you forget how to love fully. This October isn't like other months. It doesn't come to ask who your heart is loving. It comes to ask, have you loved yourself enough? Are you being honest in the love you're giving and receiving? Aries is strong, but often hides the softest parts of their own emotions. You speak through action, but go silent when what's needed is a tender truth. You give, but hesitate to admit that you too long to be touched, to be held, to be seen. This month, love doesn't arrive in grand gestures. It arrives in a quiet conversation at 10 p.m., in a sentence that slips out, something small, but something you've carried in silence for years. It arrives in a look, the kind that says, I don't need you to be perfect, I just need you to be real. And maybe you'll cry, not from weakness, but because for the first time, you don't have to hide anymore. You don't have to pretend you're fine. You don't have to armor up just to keep love from breaking. For Aries in relationships, October opens the door to truth and forgiveness. It's time to place your hand over your heart and ask, have I said what I needed to say? Am I being honest or just playing a role I created for myself? Not everyone's ready to hear the truth, but if you're not being real, is that love worth holding on to? And if you find the courage to speak from your heart, something beautiful happens. Your partner starts being honest too. A truth creates a new space, a space with no masks, no explanations, just presence. Because sometimes, love doesn't need to be explained. It only needs to be felt. It only needs you as you are to stay. And for those Aries who are single, this month may bring you face to face with a soul that quietly shifts the way you understand love. Not someone who sets off fireworks, but someone who makes you feel safe to just be you. Someone who makes you stop performing, stop running, stop proving. This kind of love doesn't shout, it stands still. It's deep enough to hold silence, and real enough that even without a label, you know it's something true. There's something October wants you to remember, Aries. Love is not perfection, it is presence. Be present in the relationship you're in. Make time to listen, make time to speak, make time to meet each other's eyes without judgment. And just as importantly, be present with yourself. Ask yourself, what do I really want? Do I still believe in love? Have I forgiven the ones who hurt me? And more importantly, have I forgiven myself? Because healing in love always starts with being honest with you. When you touch the truth inside you, only then can you truly touch someone else's heart. And you deserve that kind of love, the kind that never asks you to be anyone but yourself. Is there something in your heart you've been carrying too long but never said out loud? Don't let the unspoken become a wall between two hearts. Sometimes one honest sentence can tear down what felt impossible to cross. And then, when your heart finally opens, like a door catching wind after a long winter, you'll feel it. Emotions you buried begin to return, not to weaken you, but to remind you being vulnerable is its own kind of strength. There comes a moment this month when the movement of life, no matter how full of fire it seems, suddenly slows down. Not because you've lost strength, Aries, but because your soul is asking for something softer, a pause, a breath, a quiet release from all that's been held inside for far too long. And when it happens, what do you feel? A vague confusion, a sadness without a name, or maybe just a deep exhale as you look back at everything you've been carrying and realize you're tired. Dear Aries, no one stays strong forever. Not even you, not the warrior who always pushes forward, not the fighter who walks through fire with a blazing heart. Sometimes the bravest thing is to simply sit down, to admit, I'm tired, to look into the empty space inside your heart without rushing to fill it. October teaches you something sacred. Burnout isn't failure, it's your soul whispering. You're human, not a machine. And real growth, it's not about how much you can do, but whether you can pause when your spirit asks you to. You don't have to carry it all alone. You don't have to hold back tears every time they rise. And you don't have to explain why you're sad. You only need to allow it, to give yourself permission to feel, to be soft, to be human. I once heard a father say, I used to think men weren't supposed to cry, until the day I cried in front of my son and he hugged me. And in that moment, I didn't lose my strength in his eyes. I became more real. That story still stays with me, because somewhere in all of us, man or woman, Aries or not, we've all learned to hide our tears in exchange for an image that was never meant to last. This October, let that image go. If it's kept you in a cage too long, break it. Let yourself feel instead of always having to perform. Let your heart rest so it can beat again, not louder, but gentler, kinder. Where will you find peace? Maybe it's in a quiet morning without notifications, just you and a cup of coffee. Maybe it's in a candle-lit night with an old song playing, your mind wandering back to years where you forgot who you were. Maybe it's in a hug from someone you love or from your own imagined arms. If you need that hug today, write it down. If you need to be understood, say it out loud. And if you need silence, that's okay too. But please don't judge yourself for what you feel, because sometimes your most tender moments are also your most healing. And Aries, sometimes your true power isn't in rising, but in staying still, in witnessing, in knowing you're still here even when the world keeps shifting. You don't always have to win. Not every battle needs to be fought. Some days, just being here, just breathing, just holding onto yourself is already enough. And then in that soft moment of surrender, when you finally let go of everything you were trying to hold together, you'll realize something strange and beautiful. Change doesn't happen through control, it happens when you release. And it's in that space, that lighter space, where doors begin to open again, quietly, gently, leading you back to a more whole, more honest version of yourself. There is a kind of growth that comes without applause, no medals, no spotlight, no one calling your name, no audience witnessing the quiet shift inside you, but you know you're no longer the person you once were. As October draws to a close, Aries, once the fearless soul, with burning feet chasing wild dreams, now moves more quietly. Not because your fire is gone, but because you're learning how to hold that fire with calm hands. What once kept you up at night no longer shakes your peace. What once made you feel the need to prove yourself now feels like just another moment to listen instead. You no longer need to win every debate, no longer feel the pull to jump into every storm to prove who you are. That is maturity. Maturity doesn't mean being louder, stronger, or tougher. It means knowing what to keep and what to release. It means choosing peace over pride. It's when your words carry weight, even when spoken softly. It's knowing when to stop, not out of fear, but out of deep understanding. And Aries, that's not easy for you. You were born to lead, to fight, to blaze trails, but October opens a different doorway, a spiritual one, and you begin to see that true light doesn't always shine in loud places. Sometimes it lives in the stillness, in the moment you sit calmly, as everything around you falls apart, and yet you feel complete. You may find yourself becoming an anchor for others, not because you tried to be, but because your energy now speaks of quiet strength. People who once left may return asking for your guidance. Those who once doubted you now want to listen, not because you became better, but because you finally became yourself. October has carried you through honest, raw emotions. You've been angry, you've cried, you've gone silent, you've longed for more, and at times, you've even rejected parts of yourself. And yet, you moved through it all, not by fighting, but by understanding. And in that process, you're finally stepping into your true role in this world, not the loudest voice in the room, but the one who leads with quiet light. This path isn't lonely, but it is silent, and there will be days you'll ask, where am I even going? The answer doesn't lie in a map. It lives in the way you feel, When you look in the mirror, not your face, but your eyes, your stillness, your quiet gratitude for not giving up on yourself. Maturity has no graduation day, no certificate, but it gives you something far more precious: freedom. Freedom from others' expectations. Freedom from needing validation. Freedom from the voices that once kept you lost in the shadows of your own mind. And you know something, Aries, not everyone makes it here, but you have, maybe with scars, maybe with tears, but you made it. And in doing so, in simply continuing to take one more step, when you could have stopped, you've become the light for someone else's path. You no longer need a torch. You are the fire, and when you look back at who you were months ago, you'll smile, not because you have everything, but because now you have enough wisdom, enough grace, enough courage to live a life that no longer runs from itself. So as October closes, remember this: the most valuable thing you carry isn't what you've achieved, but the soul-deep journey that brought you home to the most tender, most authentic version of you. There comes an afternoon at the end of the month when you simply sit down, not to plan the next move, not to set new goals, but just to sit, to watch the sunlight pass through the window, to listen to an old song you once loved. And in that quiet moment, you realize you're no longer who you used to be. No reminders needed, no roll calls, no review of your achievements, just one hand over your heart, and you know something in there has shifted. Not because the world outside became calmer, but because something inside you finally softened. October has taken you through deep layers of transformation. There were days that felt unbearable, nights when your soul broke into pieces and you couldn't understand how someone like you, so strong, so determined, could feel so fragile. And yet you're still here, still breathing, still walking forward, not with the same anger, not with the same fear, but with a deeper, quieter presence. You've moved beyond old expectations, beyond relationships that no longer held you, beyond outdated beliefs that once kept you locked inside the comfort of the known. You didn't let go all at once, but step by step you released. And in that release, freedom began. Love, career, money, the world keeps spinning. Life doesn't pause for anyone to heal, but when you paused to return to yourself, you stopped chasing. You learned to walk alongside, to observe, to choose again, not from fear of loss, but from a place of understanding. You've learned to stay silent when words are not needed. You've learned to smile at yourself even when no one else notices. And you've learned to forgive, not because others deserve it, but because you deserve peace. That is the greatest gift October gave you. A homecoming, not to a place, but to a version of yourself. Long forgotten, gentle, wise, free, and deeply at peace. Maybe you no longer burn loudly with passion, but you're still very much alive. And this time you're truly living, no longer seeking yourself in someone else's eyes, no longer handing your heart to those who can't hold it, no longer needing to be better than anyone else. You've made peace with loneliness, only to realize you were never truly alone. There are souls quietly walking beside you, people silently rooting for you, connections that reveal themselves only when you're still enough to feel them. Above all, you've learned to trust the flow of the universe, not blindly, but with the kind of trust that's been shaped by experience. From all the times you thought you were breaking, only to discover you were breaking open into a new kind of growth. You don't have to announce your transformation. The world will feel it in the way you listen, the way you walk, the way you show up. Peace doesn't need to be explained, it just needs to be lived. And you are living it. October may close like a quiet autumn leaf falling softly without sound. But inside you, a door has opened to a world where you no longer have to pretend to be strong, where you get to just be whole, complete, and lovable, exactly as you are. You walked through the storm, but you didn't just survive, you awakened. And from that place, you're now living with a heart reborn. Thank you to you who walked this journey to the end with your whole heart. And may you, a brave Aries, always keep the light in your soul alive, no matter how much the world around you changes.